Okay, so today we're going to learn about boot verbs, which are also called stem changing verbs. So, stem changing is the technical term for these, and boot verbs is kind of like the nickname or the easy way to remember it. Basically, a boot verb is kind of just a regular verb, but it has one extra step. So, this year we've learned about conjugating AR verbs, regular ER verbs, and IR verbs, and then some irregulars like ser and estar and gustar and things like that. So, in Spanish, some verbs have a stem change in the present tense. When this happens, we call it a stem changing verb or a boot verb. This means that in addition to conjugating the verb, you must also change a vowel in the stem. That's why it's called a stem changer. So, what is the stem? So, let's look at these two infinitives. So, we've worked with hablar a lot. The last two letters, the AR, that's called the ending. And then everything else is called the stem. So, hablar is not a stem changing verb, it's a regular AR verb, but it's one that we've seen several times. Querer is a stem changing verb, and it means to want. And same deal here. The ER, the last two letters, we call that the ending. And then everything else before the ending is called the stem. So we set up here that a stem changing verb is where you have a change in the stem. So we're only ever going to change vowels. In this case, we're going to change this E to something else. Okay, so you guys have seen this grid before. In this case, this one happens to have kind of an ugly boot with it. So the reason why we call them boot verbs is for these four forms right here, if you outlined these boxes, it would kind of look like an ugly boot. And all of the forms inside of these boxes are the ones that are going to stem change, and the two outside do not stem change. So it's kind of an easy way to remember it. Boot verb, you stem change, or you stem change inside of the boot, you don't stem change outside of the boot. Okay, so we call this a boot verb because the forms that are inside of the boot stem change, and the forms outside of the boot do not. Pretty straightforward. There are a ton of boot verbs in Spanish, a ton of times that this would happen, but we're just going to start out by focusing on these three, and all three of these are going to be E to IE boot verbs, meaning that the E in the stem is going to change to IE. And if you notice in this one, there are two E's. We'll talk later about how to decide which one to stem change. Okay, so for now, we just want to go over the meanings of them. So querer means to want, cerrar means to close, and preferir is a cognate, so you can probably guess that it means to prefer. Okay, so we're going to start with querer. This is a super common verb, to want. If you can think about how often you might say that in English, it's just as popular in Spanish. So, querer, to want. Okay, so when we conjugate this, we're going to use the ER endings because it's an ER verb. But then, in these four forms that are inside of the boot, we are also going to change this E to IE. So the yo form will be quiero. The to form will be quieres. Ella quiere. Nosotros and vosotros are not inside of the boot, so there's no need to stem change. In fact, it would be incorrect to do so. We have queremos, queréis, and then in the ellos, ellas, ustedes box, we're back inside the boot, and so it is quieren. Okay, we're going to conjugate all three of them today. So cerrar means to close. If you notice, on the last verb, querer, it's an ER verb, so we used ER endings. Cerrar is an AR verb, so we're going to use AR endings. It means to close. Actually, I want you all to try and conjugate this on your papers by yourself and see if you can figure it out. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then come back and you can check your work. Okay, so check your work as I go through, and anything that you don't have correctly, just change it. So the yo form is cierro, to form cierras, ella usted cierra, These two, we do not stem change because they're outside of the boot. Cerramos, cerráis. And then for ellos, ellas, ustedes, we're back in the boot, cierran. Okay, and then the last one, preferir, means to prefer. So anytime you have a verb that has multiple vowels in the stem, and like for example, we know that this is an E to IE boot verb, but the problem is there are two E's in the stem. So there is a rule about this. So actually the rule is down here at the bottom. It says, what if there are multiple vowels in the stem? Which one should I change? With boot verbs, we always stem change the second to last syllable. So if we look at this infinitive, preferir, if you clap out those syllables, preferir, there are 3 syllables. So we've got the IR, the FER, and the PRE. So second to last syllable, we can see, is this E. So this is what we're going to change to IE. So go ahead and pause the video, try this one, see if you can get all 6 of them, and then come back and check your work. Okay, so the yo form is prefiero, tú prefieres, él, ella, usted prefiere, nosotros preferimos, vosotros preferís, because it's an IR verb, right? So we're using IR endings. And then ellos, we're back in the boot, prefieren.